Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and join us. My name is Lillian and I'm a FinTech account manager at Amazon Web Services. I'm incredibly excited to be here with you today because I get to talk about one of the reasons that I love working for Amazon, and that is how innovation truly underpins everything that we do. I want to start by sharing with you a quote from Jeff Bezos. You probably recognize him. He's our CEO and founder of Amazon.com. I really like this quote because it illustrates how Amazon's success has come from enabling our customers to grow and seeing them succeed. And we've taken this mentality across many different businesses, starting from when we were selling books online back in 1994 to growing into one of the world's largest e-commerce sites. Along the way, we've dabbled in TV and film production with Amazon Video. And of course, the reason that we're here today, Amazon Web Services, delivering IT services on a pay-as-you-go model. And more recently, we've also launched Amazon Prime now in Singapore so that you can order things like groceries and other household items directly to your door in as little as 2 hours. And if you take a look at each of these businesses, what you'll actually find is that they're platform plays. And what that means is that our business provides services for customers to use and to grow their business. And so we actually see success for our customers and customers. And so what I'm going to be talking about to you today is how we've been able to build an organization around innovation to grow different Amazon businesses. So this is what we're going to cover. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about how innovation is folded into our DNA. I'm going to talk about why it's important that we have discussions around innovation and why it's important to you. And lastly, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can get started innovating on AWS. To reiterate something that you've probably heard several times today, our core company mission is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. And when Jeff Bezos was building out his company mission, he was really careful about the words that he chose. Because if you compare this to how other companies talk about how they want to build out their business, they use words like profitability, they use words like market share, and they use words like shareholder value. What we've found at Amazon is that when you build your business around truly delighting your customers, it's incredibly easy to grow your business. And that's exactly where we start from. We start from our customer pain problems. We start from the customer needs that they have. And that's where we work backwards to spin off different businesses. Now I'm going to go through and show you a few different Amazon businesses that have started exactly from a customer need, starting with this video here.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So, how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
So Amazon Go is live now in Seattle and coming up in 5 different cities across the US. And the customer pain point that we started from is a problem that everyone here in this room today and everyone at this conference faces, which is time constraint. We all wish that we had more time to spend with our friends and family, to go develop a new hobby, or to finish that book that we picked up. And so with Amazon Go, we decided to look at a customer's grocery shopping experience and to see where we could give back our customers some time. We started a few years ago and iterated on a few different solutions that didn't really click with customers. And it wasn't until the technology around computer vision and superfusion caught up with us that we were able to roll out this cashierless, frictionless solution for our customers. And we're always thinking about how we can deliver our products and our service to our customers more effectively and faster. And we're always thinking about how we can connect with our customers when they absolutely need us the most. And this is where the Amazon Dash button comes in. So the Amazon Dash button is a Wi-Fi connected device that you can press to order your very favorite products right on Amazon.com. So if you think of a situation where maybe you're a new family, you just started and you have a newborn, and you put them down to nap, and you have this 2-hour window to go and do laundry. So you go and you grab your dirty laundry, you go to the washing machine, and you realize that you're fresh out of laundry detergent. With the Amazon Dash button, all you need to do is press it, and it immediately puts in an order to your Amazon.com account, and then puts it in order with the fulfillment process so that you get fresh laundry detergent delivered right to your door. And if you think back to what I was talking to you earlier about around how Amazon businesses are really a platform play, we've made sure that the technology that powers the Amazon Dash button is available for many other businesses to use. And so we've made accessibility to this technology completely available through the AWS IoT Button. And what the AWS IoT Button is it's basically an IoT device that can be configured with any kind of business logic in the back end. So you can use this IoT button to call an Uber, or call a Grab now, I guess, or to call your spouse, or even to turn your lights at home on and off if you have something like a Philips smart home. And so what we've done is we've made this technology accessible to all companies. And we've seen some pretty interesting use cases come out of it. In the US, the Miller Coors Company is the largest beer company. And what they've done is they've taken the AWS IoT button and they've augmented it so that it has a beer tap. And so let's say you're hosting a barbecue, you're having a good time, and suddenly you realize that you're running low on beer. You can walk over to your fridge, pull down this beer tap, and then put in an order at Amazon.com so that you have beer delivered to your doorstep within 30 minutes in select cities. And so all of these businesses start from the customer experience, and that's where we build out our business strategy. But how do you go from a customer pain problem to an actual business solution? At Amazon, we use what is called a flywheel. And this is actually the flywheel that Jeff Bezos first drew on the back of a napkin when he was trying to figure out how selling books online would work. And what a flywheel is, it's a basis where the energy that we put into it gains momentum and is sustained over a long period of time, so that as the flywheel spins, we are doing things today that benefit us 10 years from now and 15 years from now. And this is important because you need to get those compounding effects over time. With the flywheel, we've realized that the customers that we are working with are growing. We're constantly adding new employees to our business, and that we need to somehow codify how we think about innovation so that our customers and our employees, when they join, understand how we think about innovation, and so that they can turn around and use that in their day-to-day activities as well. So what we've done is we've actually created a formula for innovation. Now, this looks quite fancy and complicated, but it's actually very simple and revolves around 4 pillars. So we have the organization and architecture of a company to the power of the mechanisms and the culture that enable the people. Now, I'm not saying that this is the best way to innovate or that it's the only way to innovate. What I'm saying is that this is what's been working at Amazon, and this is what we've been using within our businesses. So now I'm going to take you through each of these 4 pillars and talk a little bit about what they mean. So you've probably heard about a few things today that are actually Amazon mechanisms. And mechanisms at Amazon are different from business processes in traditional companies because business processes are very prescriptive, they're procedural. They'll tell you how to get from step 1 to step 2. Whereas with mechanisms, they're really frameworks that guide the way that we make decisions. And what a mechanism does is it encourages a very consistent kind of behavior in Amazon. And that behavior is a customer-centric behavior. And so there is no Amazon business that has been built out that hasn't gone through something like the PR FAQ that you might have heard about earlier, like the working backwards framework, or even a flywheel. And so now we have a consistent set of behavior that encourages very customer-centric actions. And the next thing we need is a platform to go implement it on. And of course, for us, that platform, that architecture, is Amazon Web Services. And what we've done at AWS is we've completely removed any inhibitors to innovation. We've lowered the cost to experimentation so that anytime someone in the organization has an idea, they can go and have access to the platform to go and try it out. And this is different from the old model because it used to take weeks or even months to get access to a server just so you can try an idea out. But we've completely removed all the gatekeepers to servers. So there's no line to wait to get access to a server. There's no line to get to storage. And you know what? There's no line to start an analytics project either. There's no line to start an AI ML project. So now we have the processes and the tools, as well as the systems and the architecture to build towards a product. The next thing we need is we need the right people who are going to use these systems. And at Amazon, we have 14 leadership principles, which guides how we hire, it guides how we have interactions with our customers, and it guides how we speak to our colleagues. And with our culture, what happens is that we actually drive towards a place where we are enabling every single one of our colleagues and our employees to think about innovation and to think about how they can change their processes. And there's a few leadership principles that I want to highlight. You've heard about how customer obsessed we are. You've heard about how important it is that we enable all of our employees to be thinking about how to change processes and how to innovate. And you've heard about how it's important for us to make decisions quickly and to iterate on data that we have very quickly. With frugality, it's interesting because a lot of people think that frugality means spending money cheaply. But really how we see it is that when you are careful with how you spend your time and your resources, and when you put restraints around how you use those resources, it really is able to breed creativity. And we recognize that when we hire builders, when we hire people who challenge the status quo, when we hire people who are pioneers, they'll come in all shapes and sizes, which is why we need these leadership principles to guide our hiring decisions. The last thing that goes into the innovation formula is the organization. So we have the right people, we have the right structures and the right architecture, and we have the right behavior and the right processes. So now how are we going to organize these teams? At Amazon, what's worked for us is what we call a 2-pizza team, which is a team of about 8 to 11 people, which is just enough people to be fed by 2 maybe American-sized pizzas. So with 8 to 11 people in a team, what we found is that they can actually work as a startup unit so that they can be autonomous, they can be agile, and that they can innovate very quickly. What we realized early on was that when you add teams larger than 11 people, there becomes an overhead when it comes to communication, so that it takes longer to get things done and it slows down the business. And that's something that we really want to avoid when we're thinking about building an organization around innovation. And so when we have this culture of execution and we have the right mechanisms in place, we have a team that's innovating. This is a completely different model from how we have traditional companies that have maybe a team of, I'm not sure, maybe 20 people sitting on the 25th floor, and they're the only ones that are tinkering around and thinking of how they can change their business. What we've done at Amazon is we've pushed innovation, and we've pushed our technology, and we've pushed all of this to the edge so that we empower every single person at Amazon to be thinking about how they can innovate. And this is important because all of our engineers take advantage of this. We have democratized their access to enterprise IT services. And we see our engineers implementing this and taking advantage of this at Amazon.com. So on an average weekday, we spend about, per minute, 5 to 6 times we're releasing changes to as many as 30,000 servers. And this could be anything from changing the location or the color of a link, or it could be changing something on the recommendation engine. As we're making these changes, we're collecting feedback and checking to see if it has encouraged the customer behavior that we wanted to see. And so when we're talking about rapid experimentation at this scale, we're really talking about lower the barrier to try and fail and experiment and move through customer solutions. So I've talked a little bit about how Amazon has innovated and how we've implemented this across several different businesses. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about why it's important for you to be innovating today. So you've probably heard this data point before, which is that as time goes on, the average lifespan of an S&P company is shrinking. So more and more companies are getting edged out of their market. And an interesting thing that we're seeing is that while people in top executive levels understand that they need to be innovating and they need to be transforming, there's a blind spot, which is called the confidence bubble. Many top-level executives still think that their next competitors are going to come within the same industry as them. So they're not seeing that there are other disruptors that are growing that are going to come into their space. And at AWS, with our experience working with millions of customers worldwide, this is a pattern that we're seeing very often. So to highlight a few of the customers that we're working with that is doing this and implementing innovation a few different ways, I want to first talk about Airbnb. So Airbnb has completely defined the hospitality industry. They are the world's largest hotel chain without owning a single piece of property. And they started all in on AWS. Today, they use a team of 5 people to scale to thousands of servers to support their recommendations and their matching engines. And they have used AWS to take away all of the undifferentiated heavy lifting and all of the things that they didn't need to worry about and didn't want to worry about that wasn't a part of their business. If you look at what Astro is doing in Malaysia, they're one of Malaysia's largest television and broadcasting networks. They've engaged AWS Professional Services on a 3-year journey to help them on their digital and mobile-first initiative, working with their teams to make sure that they understand how to leverage technology to build and test faster. Lastly, we have Spuul, a local media company, which is focusing on how they can remove all of the heavy lifting and focus on delivering a better customer experience. I'd like to now welcome Subaiah, CEO of Spuul, to the stage to talk a little bit more about how he's done this.
Thank you, Lillian. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope I haven't rattled your eardrums. My voice is a lot louder than Lillian's. Now, if you were to go up a hill and to meet the sage on the hill, and it was Jeff Bezos, and you were in search of happiness, and he said to you, well, son, I'll help you invent, that will unleash your creativity and you will find happiness. You'd come down the hill scratching your head and saying, really? Well, the funny thing is, he's right. And I'm here to talk a little bit about how innovation is a central and core part of the Spuul's business and how it led to an affiliation with AWS. Innovation is a kind of an interesting word. It's actually quite general when it comes to when it comes to interpreting its value in business. There are innovations that are engineering marvels that transform the way humankind behaves. There are people innovate simply because they want to keep ahead of the competition and they're desperately trying to innovate to do that. And then there is innovation which is an absolute necessity for a business to survive. It's the difference between life and death for a business. Now, that's the kind of innovation that we pursue in Spuul. And I'll tell you why. Now, Spuul is what we call an OTT player. We do video streaming. We video stream largely Indian movie content to the Indians in India and the diaspora Indians all over the world. Now, anybody who knows Indians will appreciate this. Every single customer of ours is a unique customer. His uniqueness, or her uniqueness, is defined by the device they use, the language they want to watch their content in, the kind of content they want to watch, the propensity to pay, the payment channels they want to use, their attention span, their orientation towards one genre of content or another, and it goes on and on. Now, it's very difficult to parameterize a customer and create a cookie-cutter solution for everybody. And therefore, we actually have to innovate for every single customer. Because every single customer is saying to us, please, this is who I am, make me feel important. And that is the key to creating the best customer experience possible. So, we, for a long time, were serving our customers worldwide with Indian film content on what they call an SVOD basis. Somebody subscribes and watches a movie out of a catalog of movies that Spuul has on its portfolio. Now, the customer came back and said, you know what, and we have, by the way, about 50 million customers worldwide in 150 countries. Now, the customer came back and said, gosh, I love your product. I mean, it's got all these movies and I'm enjoying them. But you know what? I'm living far away from India, and I really want to watch linear TV channels. I want to watch the TV that is shown back home. I want to watch it on my television screen. I want to watch it on all my devices, because that would make a complete experience for me. So we sat there and scratched our heads and said, oh my God, that's a big one. Because out of India, it's not a matter of streaming 4 or 5 channels. We're talking about 200 live channels. Now, nobody had ever done that, done streaming of so many channels before on that scale. And went to our tech team, got together, and we have a brilliant tech team, and they came to the conclusion that, look, we can't do this in-house. It's obviously impossible. Let's go to AWS. And therefore, we started our partnership with AWS because we both shared that similar approach to the customer, which is to innovate in a way that creates the most brilliant customer experience. Now, in choosing a partner, it's not a decision that's made willy-nilly. It has to make business sense. And I just want to spend a few minutes with you just talking about how that business sense, is addressed and how it comes into play when you pick the right partner to deliver the solution that you want to your customer. Let's see if I can get this to work. There you go. So when we were evaluating the potential relationship with AWS, and eventually it happened, I mean, for us, the key business factors is that we needed somebody who was very agile, and speed to market is important. I mean, that's, anybody will tell you that's fairly common sense. But the speed to market that we wanted was even more important than just getting the product to market as quickly as possible. It was to transition a whole group of customers from a high-cost solution to a low-cost solution. Therefore, every day that we saved or that we got the product out to market earlier was money that dropped directly to the bottom line. And that was what AWS brought to the table, is to get us to market very, very quickly. It's the same with speed of deployment. The customer, wants to have an upgrade, wants to have an enhancement before his neighbor does. And therefore, we need to deploy upgrades, deploy new innovations to the customer so quickly that he gets it even before he asks for it. Scalability is important. And scalability is important not simply because we want to grow our business, everybody does, to gargantuan scales, but because if you don't build a business to be scalable, you will keep having to go back to the drawing board and build it again and again and again, because then, and that is going to cost you money. So from a businessman's perspective, the scalability that AWS brought to the table was absolutely key to picking them and working with them. Response to change is very critical. We are living in an ecosystem, or at least our business is operating in an ecosystem that is changing by the minute. You just cannot drop the ball at any point of time. You cannot sit on your hands. You have to be thinking about innovating all the time. In our business, we have got to be open to the world. We function not in one jurisdiction. We function in 150 jurisdictions, in 150 ecosystems, in different Wi-Fi infrastructures, different environments, different types of customers in different countries. You have blue-collar workers in the Middle East, and you have white-collar professionals in the United States. And they both want the product to be delivered to them in a way that it can be consumed in their jurisdiction. So that's very important. We needed somebody, in order to create the right kind of innovation, you also have to be prepared for changing circumstances with respect to how you deliver the product from just a traffic management perspective. When I asked our technology guys, what does traffic management mean? I mean, it sounds very fancy, but what does it actually mean? We have a few bright sparks there. One of them said to me, listen, if you were in charge of plumbing in Singapore and everybody pulled the flush at the same time, what would happen? And therefore, remember that, in every single market, there can be a traffic jam of streaming content, of content being streaming in, and therefore you need somebody who can manage that traffic in such a way that the customer remains oblivious of the fact that he is part of a jam, but he's getting his content delivered to him as he wants it. Reliability is very important, and I think reliability is probably the key to developing or innovating a product. You have to keep in mind that whatever you innovate, whatever you invent, whatever you deliver to the customer, you have to be reliable. It has to be consistent. And I'll tell you one business reason which is very critical to reliability, which many people underestimate, and that is the power of the customer. It's easy to be a reliable husband. Ask my wife. I mean, I have hundreds of manufacturing defects, but as long as I'm not, if I'm not fooling around with Stormy Daniels, she's happy, right? But with a customer today, the slightest sort of, if the customer feels even slightly let down by your service, he or she expresses it very fiercely in the social media. Your ratings plummet. I mean, it is unbelievable how much influence they have on your brand. And therefore, being reliable, being consistent is so critical to innovation. And therefore, one of the things that we have learned about working with AWS is that you can't hurry innovation just to get to speed to market. It has to be done in an organized, focused, and an intelligent way so that when it is delivered, it seems seamless, it is scalable, it is resilient, it's sustainable, and in the end of the day, creates that perfect customer experience. Now, I don't know, Lillian, if I've run out of time, but I think I'll just go through this very quickly. There are businesses like us which are very small margin businesses. It's very important for us that any innovation, it creates a business rationale that very clearly does not impact the profitability of the business. One of the good things about the innovative partnership that we had with AWS, and you've heard it in some of the previous presentations, is that they like Jeff Bezos said, let me quote him again. Right? He said there are two kinds of companies. One is a company that works hard to charge more, and the other is a company that works hard to charge less. And that is the kind of company Amazon is. That's the kind of company we are. So there's a complete meeting of minds there. Therefore, when they look at our model and they look at our customer base and they say, how do we manage the streaming costs for our customer, they charge us for how much we consume, as opposed to some companies who would probably charge us a fixed fee, almost like a lawyer charging you a retainer, which kind of eats into the margins of the business. There are no upfront costs for delivery, which is very good for us, and we've discovered that it is it is certainly cheaper to work with somebody like a good partner like Amazon than doing it ourselves. And the final thing about that is, it's expertise. For many startup companies, I don't know how many of you come from startups. I believe a number of you are startup related. Expertise is a very expensive thing to possess. It's a luxury for startups. And to have access to expertise in AWS is a phenomenal driver to innovation, because it gives you the confidence to come up with the ideas, because you'll have people who will support those ideas and drive them through. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about customer confidence. Customer confidence comes out of relationship management. You heard a lot about customer experience. It comes only when there is, at the back of it all, there is great relationship management. And that's between, a company like AWS and us and the customer, because we are a B2C business, and we function with them on a B2B basis. But really, at the end of the day, it all boils down to the same thing. It's instant fulfillment of what we require to be done. It's queries being resolved immediately. It's collaboration, which we find with AWS to be very special. They actually handheld us through the whole transition. Our partners worked, our techies worked with their techies through the night in order to transition from the old product to the new hybrid TV product that we launched. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are, whichever way we want to like it, if you're aspirational business, if you're in pursuit of happiness, we've got to be in it for the long run. What Jeff Bezos doesn't say is that pursuit of happiness is not instantaneous. It's a long day at the office, and it's a long time to accomplish in its perfect state. We're delighted to be working with AWS, and we're looking to be there like they do, as one of the panelists in the other discussion said, build relationships for the long term so we can create that wonderful experience for the end customer and charge less for it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Subin. So it's great to hear about how Subin and Spuul have been able to leverage all of these AWS services to go and innovate on behalf of their customer. And you guys have probably heard about a lot of these services earlier today, everything from cloud, compute, to storage. But I really want to highlight how what we're seeing is that cloud is becoming the new normal for companies. And we're seeing such an incredible amount of companies using the cloud to go and be more successful, to open new paradigms, new revenue streams for their companies. And there's a few different reasons that people choose AWS, and the few that I'm going to highlight with you here today. One of the first reasons is our global reach. So we have 18 regions worldwide. A region is where we have a physical presence. Within each region, we have availability zones. And an availability zone is a cluster of data centers that are connected by low latency connectivity. They sit on separate floodplains, different electrical grids, different fault lines. And with these availability zones, you're able to use them to architect for disaster recovery by default. Another reason is, of course, the pace of innovation that we're operating at. And speaking to that pace of innovation, actually when I was creating this deck and creating this slide, I downloaded this from a resource of decks that we have, and it's already outdated. So I was working on this maybe a month or so back. There's already an error on this slide. So it says here that Singapore has 2 availability zones. In the time between me putting this deck together and me standing on stage now, today, we have actually already announced the release of our 3rd availability zone. And that just illustrates the pace of innovation that we are working at today. Last year, during our reInvent, which is the largest conference that we have all year, our senior vice president stood on stage at the end of November and said that we project that we will reach 1,300 services by the end of the year. Well, the end of the year rolled around, and we actually ended up having 1,430 new services and features at the end of 2017. So that just speaks to the pace at which we can actually innovate as a business. So I've shared with you how we've been able to innovate across several businesses and why it's important that you guys should be innovating now. So let's talk a little bit about how to actually get started. Now, when I speak to new customers who are just starting their cloud journey, a lot of the times I focus on the people, Because I think what we've really come to today is the fact that innovation comes from a culture of innovation, and it comes from an organization that's structured around innovation and execution. So I don't just talk to the technical team. I make sure that I'm also across the business stakeholders. I make sure that the finance team understands how our costing model is different from traditional servers. And I speak to the risk and compliance team about whether or not they understand how security in the cloud works. And this is something that if you have gone back to your business and you want to get started and you've identified the right people to help you get started, we can actually help you with this today. We can run an innovation workshop where we bring in everyone on your team that you've identified that you want to bring with you on your cloud journey, and we can sit them down and walk them through in detail all of the innovation frameworks that we have. And then we can go and dissect a customer problem that your customers are facing and actually build out an MVP and collect data, test it, and iterate on it. So if you're interested in doing an innovation workshop, please do come and talk to us about it. Before I let you guys go, I just want to leave you with this last quote from Jeff. People are always asking us, what is the next thing that we're going to do at Amazon Web Services? Well, really, we know that customers will never want our services to be more expensive, they'll never want things slower, and they'll never want a smaller selection. So if you keep that in mind, I think you have a pretty idea where we're going to go next. Thank you so much for your time here with me today. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day at Summit.